Marhaba, my friends. Welcome back to the show. Today, we're gonna show you something very interesting. This company is called Dopalink, one of our most recent investments. It's been dealing with the Parkinson's disease, huge problem worldwide. Actually, this company developed such kind of a shoes, essentially, which could relieve the symptom of Parkinson's disease. And they've been digging this area for over a decade and come up with a total novelty mechanism of action recently. It's been published on the Journal of Movement Disorders, and we created an AI version of interpretation in the form of a dialogue to help you better understand what it does and how valuable the problem they're trying to solve. So, please enjoy.
All right, let's kick off this deep dive. Today, it's all about a potential game changer for people dealing with Parkinson's disease.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about a brand new vibrotactile foot device. And get this, it's designed to help with freezing of gait,
Fog.
Exactly, AFOG, that sudden feeling of being stuck.
Can't move.
Right, like your feet are glued to the ground. But imagine a device that could actually help someone walk smoothly again.
Even with FO.
Even with FAFA. And we're going to break down a 2024 pilot study.
Oh, cool.
It was published in Movement Disorders Clinical Practice. We're going to see how this thing works, how effective it is, the whole 9 yards.
Love it.
So for anyone who might not be super familiar with AFOG, could you give us a quick rundown of what it is and why it's such a big deal for those with Parkinson's?
Sure. AFOG is a real challenge, especially in the later stages of Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a brief pause, it's persistent. It's like...
It keeps happening.
It keeps happening. Even with medication and even with deep brain stimulation.
Wow.
So yeah, you're walking down the street and suddenly, bam, your feet are glued to the ground.
I can see how that would be terrifying.
It is. It's frustrating. It's a safety risk.
Increases the chance of falls.
Absolutely. And it affects independence, confidence, quality of life.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
So let's talk about this device. How does it actually work to help with FOG?
Well, it's surprisingly simple. It uses these targeted vibrations on the feet. We call it vibrotactile stimulation.
Okay.
It's worn on the feet, and it's got these 4 small vibrating discs on each foot heel, base of the big toe, base of the little toe.
Interesting. So are they constantly vibrating?
That's the really clever part. It's a closed-loop system.
Mm-hmm.
So the discs don't vibrate all the time. They only vibrate when the pressure sensors detect that the foot is actually on the ground.
So it's timed to when it's needed most.
Exactly. It's providing that cue right when FOG is most likely to happen.
That's so smart. And is it like a big clunky thing?
Nope. You can control the whole thing with a simple Android app.
Okay, so it's user-friendly too. But the big question is, does it actually make a difference?
Well, that's what this pilot study was all about, right?
Yeah.
They worked with 33 Parkinson's patients who were experiencing AFOG.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
What's that?
They tested them after 12 hours off their medication. They wanted to be absolutely sure that any improvement they saw was from the device itself and not from the meds.
That makes sense. So what did the testing involve?
Well, they had these walking trials designed specifically to trigger FOG.
Oh, how do they do that?
They had participants do things like walking in a straight line, stop and start walking with a narrow passageway, and even full turns, things that tend to cause freezing episodes.
Yeah.
Each trial was done twice, once with the vibrations off and once with them on.
Got it. So they could compare.
Exactly. And they even videotaped everything. Then they had independent observers assess the severity of the FOG. No bias.
Sounds pretty thorough. So drumroll, please. Did the device actually live up to the hype?
The results were really promising. They found a statistically significant decrease in both the number of FOG episodes and the amount of time spent frozen.
That's fantastic. Can you break that down a bit? Like, what did those improvements look like in real life for the participants?
Well, essentially, the device helped people walk more smoothly and confidently. They experienced fewer freezing episodes, and when they did freeze, it didn't last as long.
That's amazing. So did everyone benefit equally, or were there any interesting differences in how people responded?
There was one fascinating detail. Younger participants, those under 65, they saw a 50% reduction in FOG episodes.
Wow.
Compared to a 20% reduction for those over 75.
That's a big difference.
And those with slightly higher cognitive function, they measured this with something called the frontal assessment battery. They also showed a better response.
Interesting. So what do you think that means?
Well, it raises some really interesting questions. Could cognitive reserve, that's the brain's ability to adapt and function well, even with age-related changes, Could that play a role in how effectively people use external cues, like these vibrations? It's something we need to look into.
It really makes you wonder how our brains age and how that affects stuff like this, you know?
Totally. So many possibilities for future research. But we do have to remember, this was a pilot study, right?
Yeah.
Small sample size, just the one location, no control group.
So more research is definitely needed.
For sure. We need larger studies to really confirm what we're seeing, you know, and also to look into those long-term effects.
Like if the benefits last over time.
Yeah, exactly. Does using it for a long time lead to some kind of learning effect? That's a big question. And another thing, this device isn't for everyone, right?
Oh, right.
The study didn't include people with serious foot sensory problems. I mean, if you can't feel the vibrations, it's not going to work.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about the research, but let's zoom out a bit. Why should our listeners care about this? What makes it so important?
Well, I think this device has the potential to be a real game changer for people with Parkinson's who are struggling with FOG. It's not invasive, there are no drugs involved, and it could really improve their mobility and independence.
It's giving people back their freedom.
Yeah, you said it. The freedom to move more confidently, more safely. That's huge.
It's got to be a huge relief, especially for those who haven't found anything else that works.
Absolutely. And it also shows how important it is to look at non-drug ways to manage Parkinson's symptoms. There's a lot out there.
This study was all about FOG, but could this type of stimulation have other uses?
Ooh, that is a great question. Makes you think, right? Could it help with other movement disorders? Could it help older people in general with balance and gait?
I mean, who wouldn't want a little help staying steady on their feet as they get older? This research opens up a lot of exciting possibilities.
It really does. It makes you think about how technology can improve lives in ways we never even thought of. And this is just the beginning. It's exciting to see where it goes from here, what other innovations are out there.
This has been super insightful, but before we wrap up, I want to touch on something that's probably on everyone's mind. Someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, where can I get this device?
Yeah, I get it. Everyone's excited. But it's important to remember, we're still in the research phase here.
It's not on the shelves just yet.
Not yet. Every new medical device, it has to go through all this testing, lots of refinement before it's widely available.
Safety first, for sure.
Absolutely. Safety and making sure it actually works, those are the top priorities.
Okay, so while we wait, what can people with Parkinson's who are dealing with FOG do?
There are actually a bunch of strategies and therapies that can help manage FOG. Physical therapy, for example, could be really helpful.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Working with a therapist to improve balance, gait, strength, that can make a big difference.
I've also heard that visual cues can be useful, like putting tape on the floor or using laser pointers to help guide steps.
That's right. Visual cues work really well for some people. It's about finding what works best for each individual.
And staying active, doing things they enjoy, that's always important, right?
So important. For overall well-being, you know, and having a positive attitude, connecting with support networks, those things can make a huge difference in coping with Parkinson's and all the challenges that come with it.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. We've explored this potential breakthrough treatment for FOG, a device that could give people with Parkinson's better mobility and independence.
And we've seen the power of technology, how innovation can really change lives. Research like this gives me a lot of hope for the future and what's possible.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into such an important topic. We hope you found it insightful and interesting. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those brains active. It's really amazing, isn't it? Just using vibrations, and it could have such a big impact.
It is. And the whole connection to cognitive function, that's fascinating too.
It really is. This whole deep dive has been so interesting, but let's think about our listeners for a minute. Someone's out there thinking, this is great, but where can I get one?
Right. I bet people are excited about this.
So what's the deal? Is it available?
Well, got to remember, it's still being researched.
Ah, so not on the market just yet.
Not quite. Any new device like this has to go through a ton of testing before it's available to everyone.
Got it.
Safety first, got to make sure it's safe and that it really works. Those are the most important things.
Of course. So while we wait, what can people with Parkinson's who are dealing with FOG do right now?
There are actually a lot of things that can help. Physical therapy, for one.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Working with a therapist can make a big difference for balance, for gait, for strength.
I've heard about using visual cues, too, like putting tape on the floor or even using laser pointers to help guide steps.
Yep. Visual cues can be really helpful for some people. It's all about finding what works best for each person.
And just staying active, doing things they enjoy, that's always a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's good for your overall well-being. And having a positive attitude, having a good support system, those can make a huge difference when you're dealing with Parkinson's and all the challenges.
It sounds like there's a lot people can do now, and this new device might be another option in the future, which is great news.
It is. This research really gives us a hopeful look at a future where FOG might not be such a big problem for people with Parkinson's.
We covered a lot today, a brand new device, some promising research, and even that connection between our brains and how we respond to things like vibrations.
It's been quite a journey. And research like this, it makes me optimistic about what's coming next for Parkinson's treatments. Innovation is powerful.
I'm with you on that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, too.
And to all our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into vibrotactile stimulation and how it could help with FOG. It's a fascinating topic. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and keep exploring the world around you.